The tragedy of all of this is the Liberal Democrats had made the arguments for proportional representation for about 40 years. When Clegg got the opportunity, he went for a referendum on AV, which wasn't actually proportional, it was preferential, which nobody understood, and you couldn't explain in a sentence, and that's why the referendum was lost. That was a disaster, one of the worst decisions of Clegg's career. But the answer to your question is, yes, of course. I mean, clearly, this system is now bankrupt. It just doesn't work. And where's the incentive? I mean, if you're a socialist living in Esher, where's the incentive on a rainy Thursday afternoon to go and vote when you know there's no chance of your vote counting for anything? A lot of work was done by this. Blair said we should rethink the system back in the 90s. The Jenkins Commission came up with a proposal for AV+, which means 2 ballot papers. So wherever you live, you still get the man or woman that represents the town, which I agree is very important, but the second ballot paper lets you express a view, and any big view in this country would have representation in Parliament. Incidentally, Germany has been running on that system since 1945 in permanent coalition, and nobody would argue that Germany had been run badly.
And people are very, very fed up with feeling like they're being forced to vote for the lesser of two evils, forced to vote how they didn't want to vote, but because they're worried about the first past the post system. And the fact is, this building behind us, Westminster, the last significant reform here was women getting the vote. In 1918. We're about to hit the centenary of that. We have an incredibly archaic, unreformed system. We also have an unelected House of Lords. We really need to end up with a new system. We're calling for a People's Constitutional Convention, start with a blank slate of paper, have a big national conversation. But
what is the incentive for the government, the Conservatives, to listen to you? There is none. They're not going to vote
I think
for Christmas.
First of all, one of the claims that was made in the initial report there was that first past the post delivers stable government. A majority of 12 is unlikely to be stable. And what really is important at this point in time in terms of electoral reform is that we build a strong grassroots movement coming from all kinds of directions, people coming together and saying we want a modern 21st century electoral system. We want a system that actually represents our views. And I'd also challenge the claim that proportional representation is difficult to understand. If you get 10% of the votes, you get 10% of the seats. That's not at all difficult to understand.